This is a recording of an Instagram live where I talk through all the elements of design and construction of a chiffon dress with an ombre print. I hope you really enjoy it. Hi everyone, my name's Lorenza. Welcome to my Tuesday night live. And tonight I'm going to talk about my ombre dress that I've been posting a lot about on my reels and my feed at the moment. Sorry, I feel like I always start and then my camera angle's a bit off. I'll just go down a little bit so you can see the dress. So I always start while I'm waiting for people to come online. I always do my right side and my wrong side. So something good that's happened this week and something bad that's happened this week in regards to sewing. Definitely my right side is finishing this dress, and I did it in a week, which is far quicker than I anticipated. I just really wanted to get it done. So that's my right side. My wrong side was I pulled out one of my older projects today and I cannot for the life of me find one of the sleeves I've cut out. It is just nowhere. So I must have accidentally thrown it out. Now I pride myself on being really organized. So I have no idea where it is. I've looked everywhere and I've decided to just stop looking. So you can be sewing for years and you can still accidentally throw out a sleeve. I clearly just grabbed it with all my scraps and threw it with my scrap fabric. Went through all the scraps, can't find the sleeve. So that's my right side and my wrong side. So I'm going to jump straight in. There's enough people online now to talk about my ombre dress. I don't really know what else to call it, so I'm just calling it my ombre dress. And I'm going to run through a bit of the construction, a bit of the thinking behind the design. Look, it's sort of just a brain dump because I've just made it in the last week. And today I sat down and thought, what do I want to tell you about this? And I think, I just want to run through, like I said, a bit of a brain dump of everything of it, because there's some construction techniques in here that I think some of you might find interesting. And I didn't have too many issues with it, but I'll still explain the issues I had anyway. So first off, the fabric is a chiffon, and I did get 5 meters of it. And I can tell you that this is all I have left over. So that dress is pretty much nearly 4.5 meters of fabric. So I have this little bit, I have some offcuts from like running it through the overlocker, and I did do the waistband twice, but I'll talk about why I did that twice. But yeah, I was pretty surprised from 5 meters of fabric to only have this much left over. So that's amazing, like to have used that much fabric in a dress. I think often you look at a dress and you don't know how much fabric's in it. So if you're going to make this dress, you'd need 5 meters. So that's the chiffon, and then I had a China silk lining that I used underneath it. So they're the fabrics. It's a pink. I think it's coming through quite white on the video, but it's a pinky color. So the hardest thing was that the gradient was hard to work with. I loved the look of the fabric, and that's why I got it. But the fabric obviously runs from this red wine color, it's called, and then it goes to dark pink, lighter pink, this beautiful purple, a lighter purple. I grabbed the half piece, I need the full piece. Lighter purple, darker purple, and then this navy. Now, when I got it and I thought I need to put this around the dress, like how am I going to design and work with this? It was probably a lot harder than I anticipated. So it was a lot of pinning and figuring out how I wanted to do it. And my main concern, I didn't want it to look, I was worried it might look a bit circusy or a bit like a joker if I did say pink, purple, you know, that sort of opposite look. So that was my biggest thing when I was pinning the fabric on. I don't want this to look like a costume. I hope it doesn't look like a costume. I don't think it does. But yes, I definitely had this idea of doing all the dark on one side and the light on the other. And then as I started to pin it, I thought it'll actually look nice if I sort of do a light to dark. So I just let the design go from there. I definitely had a few accidents as I was pinning it, and then I stood back and looked at it and thought that actually looks better. So it was a lot of pinning and deciding how to use the gradients. And I did change my mind along the way. I think I had some ideas in my mind, and as I started to pin it, it either worked or it didn't work. Now, the biggest issue with the different colors though was the ruffle. I knew I wanted to put a big ruffle around the bottom, and I knew it obviously had a lot of gathers in it. Now, I didn't stick to the pattern, and that's what I should have said first. The pattern that I used, the main inspiration for this pattern, is Butterick 6677. There's the pattern there. I have made this dress before, so that was the other thing. I thought I know how to make this dress, but I knew I wanted to use all those colors in the bottom ruffle, so I was going to have to make the ruffle bigger, and I wanted to do a sleeve, like a full circle sleeve. Now, we'll just say about the pattern. I know this pattern can look a little big around the waist, but I thought for this chiffon, I didn't want anything fitted. I wanted something floaty and drapey. So I was happy to go with this pattern where I knew it would be a little bit bigger around the waist, but I knew I'd make a waist tie. And I just wanted the ruffle at the bottom and the sleeves to really shine in this design. So you can see it's a half circle sleeve, and I can't show you the ruffle because it's all the way down the bottom here, but you can see it in the pictures. So yeah, I wanted something, I've got some notes down here that I'm looking at. I wanted something that was like feminine, floaty, ruffles. Yes, and so I do want it to look like an acrobat, a joker, or a circus kind of outfit. Now I did mount. If you're wondering how I lined it, so there is this lining in the skirt, but only to the ruffle. I stopped the skirt before the ruffle because I didn't want the ruffle to have a lining behind it, because you just wouldn't put that much lining into a ruffle. You wouldn't gather all that lining and put it there. And I kind of wanted you to be able to see through the ruffle. So there is the skirt lining. This might be hard to show you back here. So there's lining on the skirt and there's lining on the bodice, and obviously not the sleeves. That was my intention. But the way I did it on the bodice was I mounted the fabric onto the lining fabric. So it's not a separate chiffon bodice and then a separate lining, it's mounted. Now, why did I do this? One really good reason. So when I say I mounted it, is in I cut out the bodice. So say you cut out the front and the back in the chiffon and the lining, and then you put them together and you sew just around the edges of them. So sew all the way around the pattern pieces. The best thing about doing this is chiffon loves to fray. So when you mount it and you've got that line of stitching, I did it about 5 mm the whole way around, it will only fray until that stitch line. Like I know you could overlock it or do that stay stitching anyway the whole way around, but when you mount it on the fabric, it's like it's kind of set and stays and you don't have to worry about it fraying. So that is one reason why I really like mounting fabric like this, like chiffon, fragile fabric onto lining fabric. I think it works really well. The other thing is if I was doing the chiffon and then doing a lining, then I'd have to worry about how I was going to hide all the seams, and when I do French seams everywhere, and I just wanted to skip all that because I was trying to make this dress quickly. So mounting it was sort of the quickest way, and in my opinion the easiest way, and then I didn't have to worry about doing pretty seams because that's the side seam there. Gosh, you can barely see it, I think, on the screen. But if you can imagine, that's the chiffon and the lining mounted, that's chiffon and lining mounted, and then they're sewn together, and that is the side seam. So yes, there's overlocking on the inside, and it doesn't look as like perfectly finished, but I think for a chiffon outer of this dress, I think you get a better look when you mount it. I could have put another lining on the inside, so then that would be 3 layers, but I just didn't have the time. I didn't really want to. I felt like 2 layers was enough. That's the other thing. When you've got something like a beautiful chiffon, you start adding layers and mounting and then another layer of lining into it, it might start getting a bit stiff. And I will jump straight to that is what happened with the waistband. So I mounted one part of the waistband onto the lining. So not 2 sides, so I just did one side of chiffon with one side of the lining. Then I did another layer of chiffon. And when I had made it, pressed it, and it was hanging down, it looked stiff. It looked like cardboard. You could see kind of all the creasing from the stitching, and it just, like the rest of the dress flowed and looked beautiful. And then there was this waistband just hanging there that just looked wrong. So I thought I've got to completely redo that. So I scrapped the idea of doing any kind of mounting or lining in it. And as you can see here, it's just the 2 layers of chiffon now. And it's much nicer finish. I think it matches the whole dress a lot better. The other thing was that I had done the waist ties so that they finished in this darker red. And when the darker red was on the dress, it didn't look right at all. I realized I had to pull it back just to a lot of the lighter tones for the waistband. So that is why the waistband is just all the purples, the pinks, and the slightly darker pinks. As soon as I brought the darker colors in, it just looked too much. It didn't look good at all. So that's, I'm jumping around a bit now. So I'll talk about the sleeves next. So yes, I wanted to do full circle sleeves, and I did cut out a little one just to see how it would look, and it didn't look great when it was small. I thought if I want to do circle sleeves on this, they need to be big and they need to go to my elbow. That's what I had the vision in my mind. But a full circle sleeve that goes to your elbow is a huge amount of fabric, and I knew I didn't probably have enough fabric to do 2 of them and to do the whole dress. So I had to cut that idea or dream I had to a half circle sleeve, which is fine, but I did not have a pattern for that. Now, if you're a professional pattern maker and you're watching this, you're probably going to be horrified as to how I took a full circle sleeve into a half circle sleeve, but it worked. So I measured the sleeve on the pattern, the armhole, and just made sure that matched my full circle sleeve. So first I did draft a full circle sleeve, and you can see it's lovely and crinkly because when I decided I didn't want to use it, I threw it in the bin. And then I thought, hang on, I can make this into a half circle sleeve. So that's when I cut up the middle of it. Hang on, I've jumped forward a step. I pulled out my amazing, trusty pattern making for fashion design book and looked up how to do circular hemline sleeves and a half circle sleeve. Hope you can see there's a picture there. So I thought, okay, I know roughly how to make this work. So here is my full circle sleeve, and I just did a cut up the middle of it, and then essentially I went like this to make it look like the pattern of the book. So then it is a half circle sleeve. Yes, I shaped this in and made it look better. Obviously it didn't look like that, but I went from full circle to half circle. Oh, now it's come apart, but I think you get the idea. So then you can see I shaped it so it looks a bit nicer. That became my half circle sleeve. So that is the sleeve you see on the dress. So I was quite proud of myself for that one because I don't feel super confident with pattern making, but whenever I get out a pattern making book, I feel like I can do this. So, and I think it worked, so I was happy with it. So that is how I did the armhole and the sleeves. Now, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, the other thing I did try finishing off the ruffle with just like a plain double fold hem. I did a few trials and I didn't like the way it looked. It just wasn't floating nicely. So I decided instead to do a rolled hem on my overlocker, and then I wanted to mirror that on the sleeves. So when you're doing it on a straight grain or a cross grain, you don't really need to worry about a rolled hem. Your overlocker will just do it beautifully. So that's what I did on the ruffle. But then obviously for the sleeves, because they've got a beautiful curve on them, you can get a lot of issues with doing rolled hems on curves. And I know this from a previous project I did years ago, and that is when I worked out to use the wash away stabilizer. I think from a lot of Googling and reading. So that is the YouTube video that I posted on Monday, and I talked about it in a reel tonight. So if you are wanting to do rolled hems on something with a curved hem or a curved sleeve, it is totally achievable. You just need to get some wash away stabilizer and it works beautifully. That rolled hem will not drop off the chiffon. You can do a rolled hem that's on a curve on this kind of lining fabric. Anything with a bit more grit to it is fine. But as soon as you move into a floatier, delicate fabrics, that rolled hem, as soon as it hits a curve, a certain point on the curve, the rolled hem will just sort of tear away or fall off. As careful as you want to be with it, it will just come off. So yeah, you can use wash away stabilizer. It's amazing. You just dunk it into water and it disappears. But if you want to watch and see how I did it all, I filmed it on Saturday night. So I was in my bathroom at 11 o'clock at night, rinsing the sleeves, blow drying them, filming it all because I wanted to make a YouTube video out of it. Share the pattern making book details. I can do that. So it's Pattern Making for Fashion Design by Helen Joseph Armstrong. It's a pretty famous one. It was one that was recommended when I was studying fashion. Also, I've tried to link all the books that I do use on my Amazon storefront. I've also got a reel about books, so just DM me if you want to know all the books that I've got. I don't have heaps, but I love the ones I've got. This one is my go-to for everything. I think it's amazing and I love all the sleeves in it. It's really simple. So yes, back to rolled hem. So I guess I mirrored the ruffle, the bottom of the ruffle with the sleeve. So like I said, I did double fold hem and I didn't love the way it sat. It just looked a bit too structured for this fabric. So I kind of like the way I've got the rolled hem on the sleeve and the rolled hem on the ruffle on the hem at the bottom. I feel like it goes together nicely. Other things, there's elastic obviously in the waistband, and to give it, in the pattern it literally is, to give it a bit more of a waist for you. But again, I wanted to fit the whole gradient ombre around the skirt. So again, I sewed the skirt and then I mounted the gathered ombre fabric to the skirt, if that makes sense. So the skirt is the pattern, the lining skirt is the pattern, and then I gathered up all the fabric and made the fabric fit onto the skirt lining. So I kind of mounted the gathered fabric onto the skirt lining because I wanted all of the colors in it. So I really had to, I guess, rejig this pattern a lot because of the fabric design, which was kind of fun and quite a good challenge. And I think I came out with a good result. So if I just copied this pattern completely and thought, no, the skirt's going to be the size it says, the sleeves have to be how the sleeves have to be, then I don't think I would have got such a, I think it's quite a balanced dress, because I really did try and use all of the fabric and all of the colors. If that skirt had gone from the dark and then it just sort of stopped at the light purple, I don't think it would have had the same effect. So yeah, I really worked with the pattern. I still used the pattern, but I worked with the fabric to make it fit this pattern. And I think it came out quite well. So I've talked about the sash. I talked about how I redid that. I think that is pretty much all of my notes. My terrible, not terrible, I love the way the sleeves came out, but I'm sure a professional pattern maker would maybe be horrified with how I did them. That was the other thing I was going to say. In the ruffle, I'm sure you can't see it all the way down here, but when I did the ruffle and joined all of the colors, there was sort of, I'm eating my hair. There was this light purple bit in it, but it was unavoidable in doing the ruffles. I didn't want to waste fabric, but there was this purple bit there that I wasn't too sure of. And so when I did the sleeves, I thought, well, I'll just bring that purple in there. So then that kind of goes with the ruffle down the bottom. And same with the waistband. I thought I'd highlight more of that purple in it. So yeah, that's how I sort of, anything I wasn't happy about, I thought, how can I make the fabric work for me with this design? I knew I wanted the ruffle. That, if anything, that came first. The ruffle and the skirt, I knew that was how I wanted it to be. Same with the bodice. And then the sleeves came later. But I think that worked really well, because I could make the sleeves then marry up with the rest of the design of the dress. And I'll just show you here. I think I'm quite happy with the way that, so the purple of the sleeve with matching the ruffle at the bottom, and then when you turn it around, the back of the sleeve with the blue matches quite nicely with the back of the bodice. And I managed to do the same on the other side of the bodice. So there's the purple there, and then it's the purple on the sleeve there. And then it goes around to the pink, which matches the bodice at the front. So that is my dress. I have very little fabric left over, but I loved making this. It was good to really push myself with a shorter deadline, because I often take ages to make something. I did have, I'm on holidays from work at the moment, so I did have some days where I could sew, but still I didn't spend a whole day sewing. I still just prefer to sew in small increments of time. And the reason being, I think, when you're working on something like this and you've got so many decisions to make and you're running into lots of design issues, you will just get decision fatigue. So you're better off sewing for 20 minutes, coming to another problem and saying, I'm going to step away, because by the afternoon, most of the time I had worked it out, or by the next morning I had worked it out. So I find that really helps with complex kind of projects like this. Sew them in short bursts of time. When you run into a problem, just set it down, go and do something else for the day, and you'll figure it out and come back and have a solution or have an idea for it. So I guess that's my advice on projects like this. But I think I'm going to pick a more simple project next time, but I'm still super proud of this. No, I have nowhere to wear it, but it's almost summer in Australia, so I'm sure I'll have something summery to wear it to. It doesn't look like anyone's really asked me any questions. I've just been talking at a lot of you, all of you. Lots of waves, so that's really nice. Thank you. Well, thank you for listening to my debrief on the dress. It's been a journey. I'm super proud of it though. And I do need to find somewhere to wear it. If you have any questions, just let me know on the reel, and everyone have a great week, and I will chat to you all next week. Thanks. Bye.